Hello and welcome to Real Musicians Don't Starve. I'm your host, Michael Elsner, and today we are here with Ed Eason. Now, you have seen Ed. I know you have. In fact, you may have even been in the same building as Ed. For the last 15 years, Ed has been the lead guitar player for Carrie Underwood. He's been able to travel the entire world multiple times over. He's played on virtually every TV show there is, from the Grammys, the ACM Awards, the CMA Awards, let's see, Letterman, Leno, Fallon, right? All the talk shows. He's even shared the stage with rock legends like Steven Tyler from Aerosmith and Lindsey Buckingham from Fleetwood Mac. So he's had an incredible career with Carrie. And on top of playing guitar for Carrie, he's also a speaker. Yeah, he speaks at a lot of corporate events. He shares three of his biggest life-changing lessons at his during his speeches, and he's here to share his life-changing lessons with us. So, Ed, thank you so much for coming and spending time with us.
Yeah. No, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
This is awesome. I've had the pleasure of knowing you now for, I guess, about 3 or 4 years. We aren't quite neighbors, but we do live in the same town. But I've known of you for a long time because we've both been endorsed artists for some of the same companies for many years.
Yeah, and, working a lot of the same circles.
It's kind of funny how that works, right?
Yeah.
So your career has been, I think your career has been a career that a lot of people dream of, being able to play with such a huge artist and be able to travel the world and whatnot. So my first question to you is, I know a little bit more about your personal story, but my first question to you is, when you were growing up and now that you've had this successful career, 15 years, just playing for one artist, and it's just an incredible experience. What is your definition of success as a career musician?
What's my definition of success?
Yeah, what is like when you think of being a successful musician, what does that look like to you? Because you've worked with people, from icons, like massive stars, to just like all the other guys in the band, everyday folks who have had a great career. They're not necessarily well known, they're not on the cover of magazines, but as you and I know, there are more musicians who've had incredible careers who no one's really heard of, but they've done stuff that all of us know and we've all seen and experienced, right? So my question to you is, I could probably just rephrase it a little differently, but when, from your experience, a lot of people see musicians and they go, oh, if you're not on the cover of a magazine, then you're struggling. So my question to you is as someone who's not struggling and but you've had an incredible career, what does success really look like to you from your perspective?
So it's funny. I'll even flip that phrase just a hair there. I don't really think about it as success, right?
Sure.
And yes, I've been very fortunate, and all those things. I think for me, it's not so much that I look at my journey and think, wow, I'm a success, but I said oftentimes it's wow, that kid who lived in a little small town, right, with no money and right, all those things, and like that kid, like I'm on this stage and I get to do it. Like this is that thing I dreamed of as a kid. So I don't think of it as wow, I've made it, I'm a success.
Yeah.
It's more of, oh my gosh, I'm getting to do that thing I dreamed of as a kid. Like, who gets to do this? And that's kind of how I think of it. It's rare the thought success runs through my brain.
Yeah. It's a blessing to be able to get up every day and do something that you love, and you're kind of blown away. I feel that too sometimes, especially when I work on some shows or films, and I watch them later. I go, I can't believe that a kid from a small town in upstate New York was able to be a part of that.
Yeah. So for me, it's a lot of gratitude, and it's probably a lot of, maybe that's been part of the reason why I've been able to have the success I've gotten to have. Sometimes I think it is gratitude, not entitlement,
right.
And that may be a whole nother conversation, but, a little gratitude gratitude really goes a long way sometimes in this business versus
Oh,
entitlement, right? We've known lots of people who carry around a lot of entitlement and they just haven't done anything, or
yeah.
they get to a great spot where they have cool opportunities, and then that entitlement kicks in as far as, well, where's I need to have whatever, fill in the blank, and all of a sudden they're not around very long,
Yeah. 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 I think we've all worked with musicians over the years who they get to a certain point and then they start feeling like they're the star and they should be treated like the star.
But it goes all the way back to me playing in clubs at
Yeah.
19, 18, 19, 20 years old, right?
Yeah.
I mean, those guys had that same attitude way back then. And guess what? They never made it out of the club, whatever town they were in.
Well, I think
I was in.
I think it's important to keep in mind that, the music industry it's a relationship-based industry.
Correct.
And you're spending so much time with people when you're traveling with them or when you're in the studio that even more important a lot of times than the skill set is your attitude.
Correct.
And if people enjoy being around you, that's why I've always looked at things over the years. I had an experience years ago. I was leaving Dark Horse Studio, which is a big studio here in Nashville. This is probably in 2001 or 2002. And I was driving to this little, there's a barbecue joint down the street, kind of close to the end of, was that Hillsborough Road or whatever, or Old 96, whatever they call that road.
Yeah.
Old Hillsborough. Okay. Yeah. And there's a barbecue joint there. And we were going to this, barbecue place. And I remember I was with the engineer that day and I hadn't seen him in a while. And he was asking me how things were. And I said, man, I'm like booked for the next 11 days. And he goes, oh, that's great. And I said, I don't know why, because I'm really not that good. And I specifically remember saying that to him. And he goes, don't ever say that. The reason why you're getting these gigs is because people like being around you and you know your role when you show up. And he was basically just being complimentary of I would just sit there and kind of be a fly on the wall until they needed me. And I realized, that really is, especially as I got older and had more experiences with people, you're going to have a lot more success by just showing up and doing the job and having a smile on your face, even when you disagree, it's a people business.
Well, that's right. I tell people all the time, like there's 1,000 players out there, right? There's 1,000 people in your network who watch your podcast and watch your courses and things. And dude, I can promise you there's 1,000 guys out there who are equally as talented as I am or more so, and just as deserving to play the kinds of gigs that I get to play. But having that good attitude, really goes a long way. To your case in point, right? It's like there's just a lot of great guys out there who can play it just as good as you can. I mean, that's the reality. It's not. But just being enjoyable to be around sure goes a long way too.
I think that's really that comes down to really having a mindset, of kind of like what you were saying earlier, just being, looking at what you do and going like, this is a blessing. Mm-hmm. I can't believe that I'm here at this show, or I can't believe I'm here at this award show and I'm getting to do this in front of all these people. And I think that plays a large role in that continued success, because you've been able to play with a lot of other artists who haven't really necessarily talked about. But as you've had your career over the last, we'll say, really 20 years, you've been with Carrie 15, but you were around longer than that. What are some of the strategies that you've been able to implement in your career to stay consistent? So for example, like, Carrie's not always touring. She's not always busy. So when Carrie's not busy, what are the strategies that you're constantly implementing to keep your own career going, whether that's in music or whether that's building, your career as a speaker? What are some of the different strategies you've been able to implement?
Well, a lot of it's relationships, right? We hit on that a little bit, I think, but relationships, being mindful of relationships, cultivating relationships. So there's a couple different kinds of people in Nashville and probably any community. And there's some people who only reach out and engage and connect when they need something.
Yes.
Right. So so what that scenario looks like is this: tour's going great, you're living life, everything's awesome, blah, blah, blah. And then now all of a sudden the artist or things slow down. And now all of a sudden you call up hey, Michael, what's up? It's Ed. Let's go grab coffee and catch up. And hey, by the way, I need a gig. If you know of anybody going on
Yeah.
tour, I'm looking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And your thought might be, well, dang, that's kind of lame. Like, I thought Ed was wanting to come hang out, but really he just wanted to say, I need a gig.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's not as, you don't reach out to people only when you need something, right?
Yeah.
Versus having that relationship where you and I, we stay in contact. We'll grab a coffee occasionally, whatever it is. We'll talk on the phone for a minute. And so if I reach out to you and all of a sudden say, hey, tour's winding down, I'm looking to hop on another tour, keep me in mind. You're like, dude, I'm totally going to keep my ears open for Ed because he's my bro. Like, we talk, he stays in touch. He doesn't just reach out when he needs something. We actually have a relationship, a friendship, and you want to help the people who are your friends.
Of course.
And so I think a big part of strategy, and you don't want to call it strategy, but a big part of staying busy is not just to reach out to people when you need something, but to build real relationships. And when you have those real relationships, i.e. they become real friendships, friends want to help your friends want to help friends succeed. And so keeping those relationships, just building true relationships. So when you're busy, it's a real relationship. When it's not busy, you need to reach out and say, hey, everybody, I'm looking for a gig. They want to help you out versus, oh, he's just reaching out because he needs a gig right now. And funny thing is, he reached out a year ago when it slowed down, and sure enough, he only reaches out then. And that's not very fun. Yeah. So I think it's being intentional to build real relationships that you're engaged in, not just when you need things.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought that up and you said that. That's definitely been something that I've struggled with throughout my entire career with other people. You know, it's always been a big frustration for me when people just reach out when they want something. And I learned early in my career to carve out time each week to actually connect with people. And I think that's been, a big factor in what's opened up doors for me. You know, I would just walk to a Starbucks or a coffee shop somewhere and sit down. Even before we had the iPhones and could send out messages on those, I would just walk to a Starbucks living in Los Angeles with my laptop, sit there for half hour, 45 minutes, a couple of times a week. I go through my contact list and I just shoot out emails to people. And I always tried to really stay in contact with people. And I think that was a big reason why when opportunities would come up, especially like in the TV world and in the sessions and stuff like that, why I would get calls. And I learned later on that that's actually a strategy. You know, I was doing it not knowing it was a strategy.
You're doing it. That's how you just want to connect and stay connected with people.
Yeah. But it's one of those things where, like, psychologically, when we are always in contact with people, we stay top of mind.
That's it. So that's it. You just hit it nail on the head, right? So it's a combination. You have, we have a real relationship, so I want to help you, or vice versa, and top of mind. And so when these gigs come along, I didn't audition for Carrie gig, right? I didn't audition for that. I don't audition for most things. It's just that top of mind.
Yeah.
Hey, we need a guy, and Ed's top of mind. Oh, and I like Ed. Let's call him, and that's it. Done.
Yeah, he's easy to work with. He can play the parts, and he's good on stage. Let's call him and get and get him in.
But to your case in point, you really said it, top of mind. I mean so I think that's the win of real relationships. It's right. It's a double. There's two sides to this. It's the relationship, because they want to help you, and you're staying top of mind. And if you're not top of mind, they may want to help you, but they forget, like, oh shoot, I love Michael. I should have totally called him for that gig. But this other guy called me today, and I was like, oh yeah. And he was top of mind, and that's who I recommended. Yeah.
Yeah. I've never actually, now that you say that, I was thinking quickly, I don't think I've ever auditioned for a gig that I've had.
Isn't that wild?
I have never auditioned for a producer to play on their projects. I've never auditioned for a composer A lot of times it was just, I would come in and my first session with them, I guess, would really be the audition, but it was a actual session.
Yeah.
I've never auditioned for an artist that I've gotten a gig with. It's really all been from knowing people.
Mm-hmm. That's it. You're absolutely right. I mean, case in point, 15 years, basically 15 years with Carrie. It was because I knew somebody, right? And I was top of mind and we had a relationship.
Yeah.
It was my gig to lose at that point, right? I show up in a room and I perform and I keep the gig. I don't perform, they'll get somebody else.
So then that's a great lead into the next question then. You just said it's your gig to lose, right? And you've had that gig for 15 years, and I'm sure various other people have come and gone for whatever reason, probably, just choices in their life, getting married, whatever, having kids.
Life. Yeah.
The live world does see, quite a bit of turnover over the years, but, to keep one gig for so long, aside from the skill set, obviously you can play the parts. Aside from the mindset, which is just people like being with Ed on the bus and at the airport and hanging out and backstage and stuff like that. And I think that's really more of a mindset. What would you say would be another big contributor that's allowed you to keep that gig and has even allowed you to get the other gigs with the other artists that you've played with during the downtime with Carrie? We've been talking about I think the action aspect is staying on top of mind and making phone calls. But I guess let me probably rephrase that question a different way. If you could go back to the 20-year-old Ed,
he doesn't know anything. 20-year-old Ed.
20-year-old Ed. Let me look at it this way. What would be two things that you would tell 20-year-old Ed to do differently? That this Ed in 2020 knows and understands, having had a 20-year, really career as a successful musician?
That's a really, really great question. And I don't know that I know. This is going to sound really, really bad. I mean, 20-year-old Ed didn't know anything, right? 20-year-old Ed thought he was going to come to Nashville and run this town in a year.
Yeah. Well, it could be something even as simple as just understanding certain business practices. Like you say, 20-year-old Ed knew nothing. If you could sit down with him, if you guys go back in time and sit at a diner, would there be any particular music business strategies that you would tell him? Any just general knowledge that you would impart on him that would save him a couple years of headache and struggle and frustration?
Yeah. Honestly, this is going to sound really bad, but as far as that stuff goes, I feel like 20-year-old Ed was on point on a lot of things. And here's what I'm here, and I just what it's going to be like. To modern day Ed, he's arrogant if he thinks 20-year-old Ed knew it. But here's what I'm gonna lay it out, because I feel like I did a lot of things right, and there are things I could fix. So I'll mention this, and I'm sure I'll segue into your answer. But for those who, I think there are some good practices that 20-year-old Ed did, and maybe this will be of value for some people, right? 20-year-old Ed knew, if I want to have a real opportunity in a career, I had to position myself in a place where things were really happening, right? So 20-year-old Ed wants to get on stage and play arenas around the world. Like, that's what I want to do. And so living in Houston, where I live, although there's some very minuscule part of the music community getting to do that in Houston, there just really aren't a lot of opportunities for that sort of thing living there, right? And so maybe living in Houston, I get to know a guy who maybe lives in LA or Nashville or wherever, and maybe there's a slim chance that guy may be like, hey, I know a guy in Houston, we should call him, right? Mm-hmm. The reality is that I knew if I wanted to do what I wanted to do, I had to go where the action is happening, right? So statistically, where are the better opportunities? So for me, that was Nashville. And so 20-year-old Ed knew, get to where things are happening so that you can statistically have a better chance of these things happening.
Yeah, you can put yourself, I think people say like, oh, like you got lucky. And I don't think that luck ever happens. I think you actually go and you create the opportunities. So you were going to Nashville to go create the opportunities for you.
That's correct. Yep. Yeah. The other thing was 20-year-old Ed also realized that to stay in the game, to be able to create these opportunities or to be able to have these opportunities, I needed to be able to stay in the game long enough for the opportunities to happen. Some people, they move to town and 6 months later, boom, they're doing great, right? Or a year, they're doing great. And that wasn't my journey, but I knew I just needed to be able to stay in the game long enough, however long that took for the opportunities to arise. And so for me, it was, all right, well, I don't need a nice fancy new car. I don't need a nice fancy apartment, right? I don't need those things that trap that a lot of people fall into. Well, now all of a sudden they're working day jobs all day, every day to pay for those things. I was sleeping on a couch for a year. I slept on a floor for the next year because I just wanted to be able to keep my overhead low enough so I could go and find these opportunities and be available, not say, well, I'd love to get together and write a song or play a gig or do a session or do an audition, but I have a job at this time and they won't let me off to come do this. I have this job to pay for this car that I had this expensive car note for that looks really sharp and this nice apartment. And what it's like, I just scrapped all that stuff so that I was like, you got an opportunity, I'll be there, And so 20-year-old Ed was somehow, as much of a dumbass as he was, he had a little sense to know, like, get there and make yourself available, And as far as like, what would I tell myself that would have saved myself a lot of time? I honestly, I don't think I have that answer right now. I think sometimes it just takes time, right? There are so many people I've met, and the same holds true whether it's music licensing, sync deals, or if it's trying to get on to make it in Nashville or wherever. They'll say, I'm gonna give myself 6 months. Now, if I don't get it in 6 months, I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna go back to college.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fill in the blank. I'm gonna give myself 1 year, and if I don't get it in a year, then I'll go back and I'll do that safety net thing that everyone says I need to do. And that's a myth, man. It's like there's like that. You just can't. There's no way to know. It's like it might be 6 months, it might be a year, it might be a year and a half. Everyone that moved to town when I moved to town, because anytime you're new to something, like just with your community of people, there are people, they're all new to this thing probably that you're building. Mm-hmm. That you're this info that you're giving these people, and they develop a community amongst themselves, right? Because that's just what we do. We gravitate towards people who are kind of at that level where we are, and we try to work our way up. Out of all those people that came to town when I did, only one other person is still doing it. Me and another guy. Everybody else, I'm gonna go back home, and they did their, they did their 1 year. They did their whatever that number was, and they left.
Yeah.
For me, it was just. Sometimes it's just time. Unfortunately, it's just time. And there's, how do you, it just falls. Sometimes it's just what happens, right? You've got people in your community and they're going to get some great sync deals in, 3 weeks and be like, dude, this is so easy. And some people, it's going to take them a year and a half to get like a real one that pops to where it's going to be like, okay, I think it's really happening now. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, time is just, you keep making yourself available, but sometimes it just takes time. Elaborating on this idea about I'm only going to give it 6 months or I'm going to give it a year. I have a friend. The first time I wrote with him, he's pulling up in this Honda Accord with no air conditioning. Okay.
Yeah.
And we would write. We wrote numerous things together, and he's pulling up, and I don't know. He's probably getting close to 40, something, right? And he's showing up in these writing sessions with a car with no air conditioning. Fast forward, he finally gets a #1 song. 17 years.
Wow.
He spent riding around in a car with no AC, doing all this stuff, writing songs, connecting, showing up for the next writing appointment, not having the nice car with all the nice air conditioning. 17 years. And now he's had multiple #1 songs.
Yeah.
But it took 17. He could have said, I'll give myself 10 years. He'd have been screwed.
Yeah. 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 Would have wasted those 10 years. Yeah. Unfortunately, and that's a great example of how it only takes one thing to completely change and alter the direction of your career. It only takes one meeting with someone to completely change and alter the entire direction of your career. Now, you don't know when that's going to happen, but I can look back on my career and I can say that I can actually bring a number of the biggest events in my career happened chance meetings, most of the time like at a coffee shop or at some type of event with people who I didn't know who they were, actually didn't even know who they were. And they were very nice. And then one ended up being a very, very successful engineer producer who I then studied under and came up under. Another was a huge composer. I had no idea who he was. And then like the next day I was playing guitar on one of his TV shows. And then that opened up a whole other, career for me. And it all comes back to literally, and I specifically remember one of those times being invited out to, it was a Sunday, being invited out. And I remember saying, no, I'm not going to go. I'm just going to relax and chill here. And then probably like 15 minutes, I thought, I should just really go out. I should go out and just be out a little bit instead of just staying home. Thank God I did.
Yep.
It completely changed the entire trajectory of my career that one Sunday. And
Well,
you never know when those are going to happen.
That's right. And that's why it's so important to show up with your game face on for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's you're going to step into that meeting or if it's just talking with that person at the bar. By game face in that scenario, I mean, you're not just being a complete douche. You treat everybody like somebody you respect and want to, you treat them well and talk to them well. And because that might be the person that starts that triggers whatever the effect is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, or you may show up for that one crappy gig or that one crappy placement thing. We're like, man, there's nothing that's going to happen with this. But that guy who's on that, there might be one person in that chain, like the engineer,
Mm-hmm.
the producer, one of the other musicians, who's like, dude, I like this guy. I got this other thing over here. You want to come do this with me? And then away it goes.
Yeah.
So you always got the A game.
And that's why you can't really plan where it's going. You can have your plan on where you want to go, but the path to get there will not be a straight line. And that's a perfect example of why, because you're on this path and you meet someone and you go over here and then something else is going to lead you here. And you're going to do this whole swirly thing that's ultimately going to lead you, to where you want to go, or even if it's not even where you want to go, to a completely different place than you initially wanted to go. That's even a lot better, that you had no idea even existed or was even available to you.
Yeah, agreed.
Hey, I wanted to press pause on this podcast for a second and let you know that if any of your goals over the next year include recording and releasing a new album, generating placements of your songs on TV shows, films, and commercials, building a fan base that will sustain your career, or just transitioning into full-time music, I want to invite you to my special workshop, Real Musicians Don't Starve. In this workshop, we're going to focus on the 3 keys to your success, and you're going to learn an extremely powerful strategy that allows you to create your own wow factor. And this allows you to attract opportunities to you and your music, as well as remove any financial worry that you may have pursuing a career as a musician. And you can check out this workshop for free at realmusiciansdon'tstarve.com/workshop. Now let's jump back into the podcast.
You have songs that people write, and these songs sit for 6 or 7 years. And finally something happens with them. And,
Right.
I have a Saturday morning kids show theme song. And that song got licensed in 2011. It was written in 2005.
There you go.
That song sat for 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, things do take time. And over that time, I worked that song too. I sat it sit, I pitched it to people for a while, and then I did nothing. Figured it was, old news. And then I started pitching it again in 2009 and nothing happened. Then I forgot about it. And then, 2010 or 2011, I signed it over to a company, and next thing you know, or a publisher or a library, next thing you know, probably within a year, that something happened with that song. But I had worked that song for years.
Yeah. And it just sometimes it takes time, right? For the right song, right placement, the right hole that your thing can fill. So,
yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
No, I think that is a perfect summary of the musician's pursuit. And I love what you said earlier, where you do have to go create your own opportunities, because 20-year-old Ed knew that he had to leave Houston and go create some opportunities in Nashville. And of course, I think now it's a little easier to do that, because now we can connect with people so easily, as opposed to back when you and I both came to town. And
correct.
Now you can actually get online and start meeting and following people and interacting with their social media and whatnot. Whereas, back then that wasn't possible, but at the same point, there were definitely, certain tactics that I used when I came to town. I looked up different engineers. I actually was the guy, as I'm sure you were too, we actually read all the credits in the CD liners, and we learned who was working on stuff. And our goal was, to get, I know Ed and I've been friends, so I'm speaking for him now, but our goal was to connect with people who we were familiar with, reading a lot of those credits. Now, again, now it's so easy. You can just get on a website and you can find all these people, for the most part, and you can interact with them. Whereas back in the day, we couldn't interact with them. We had to figure out if they were at some studio or if they were at, some gig somewhere, and maybe try and go in and figure out a way to go say hello to them.
Well, you're exactly right. Yeah. You're just like waiting for your chance. Like, okay, there's my window. I'm gonna sneak in there now. Like, how you doing? I'm Ed, and blah blah blah. It's like, who are you? Kid, beat it.
And then you get nervous, and then you just you don't do it at the last minute, and you leave, and you're like, oh man, I should have done it. Yeah. But now I think now it's very easy to connect with people.
I agree, and you're right. So with social media and and the things that a lot of things with what you're talking about, as far as sync deals and all of that. Fortunately, you don't have to go to Nashville, right? You don't have to go to these places, and so I think that's what's really cool about what you're doing, in your community, a lot of your community. You can go to the proverbial, I don't know if that's the right word or not, but where you can find the community, and it doesn't necessarily have to be, you don't have to uproot your family and move to said place, but you can find that online community, like you said, and start engaging with them. Yeah. And you can DM people, there might be that engineer who works on a ton of things, and he's super popular, but if you go on his Instagram page, he's got 400 followers. You know what I mean? Like, nobody follows this guy. Yeah. And you send him a direct message, he probably gets one DM, like once every few weeks. It's not like his mailbox is full of like messages. So you're able to DM the guy and say, hey, so-and-so, would you be up for let me pick your brain for 45 minutes? I've got a list of 5 questions I'd love to know the answer to, and I'll be quick. I won't take up a lot of your time. And I just really love and admire what you do, and can I pick your brain for 30 minutes, right? Mm-hmm. That person is probably going to say yes.
I agree with you. I'd say 80% or more of the time they're going to say yes. I agree with you.
Right. The most of the industry isn't too cool for school to talk to somebody. Yeah. And so that's where you're finding what you're saying, that finding that online where you can actually connect with those people and find that community by not having to uproot, that's if you want to do sync stuff or whatever. But you know what, shoot, if you want to be a musician now too, I guess same deal, right? Yeah. So if you're a superstar guitar player guy, you probably only have a few thousand followers, and probably don't get a ton of messages. Well, if I'm a guitar player and I think I got some goods, I can highlight my stuff online and send you a message. Say, dude, I love what you're doing. I'd love to get your feedback. And you probably see that message, and you probably, out of curiosity, click the link. That's what I do. You'll probably click that link like, oh, wow, that guy's actually really good, and someone may wow you, they may not.
Well, I think the other thing too is you have to understand that a lot of people who are at that point that you want to
All I
be.
got on that.
No, I think it's awesome. A lot of the people who are at the point that you want to be at one point were where you're at now. You know, so we've all gone on that journey, and you know, we can all look at the other people who are reaching out, going like, yeah, I'm still living in a small town. I want to get out, and I want to, you know, do what you do, and I admire what you do. I'd love some, you know, opinion or some tips or some suggestions. Well, I was that kid, you know, 20 years ago. You were that kid 20 years ago. So you know that experience. You know what they're going through. You know, and I think most people do. And again, it comes down to it's a community, and most people also who've been in the business for a long time. I've seen people who've jumped into the business. I've been in for a long time. They jumped in. They've been in for maybe, you know, 2 or 3 years, and then they skyrocket to success.
Yep.
And it's like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to start connecting. You know, like I helped them out for a little bit, and we were friends. But now they have this tremendous success. I want to start connecting with them. I want to start learning what they did to get there in such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
Right?
It's always an impressive thing to see.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Cool. Well, Ed, man, I want to thank you. You shared a lot of great information. We've actually hit also on really the 3 keys to success, which is what I talk about with Real Musicians Don't Starve, and that is, you know, the mindset. You know, and that's really the attitude that you were talking about earlier about, you know, people wanting to be around you, and that's where a lot of things start. Obviously, the skill set, you have to come to the table with the goods. You don't have to be the best one out there, but you got to be able to, you know, come to the table with the skill set to do the job, right? And then the actions, and we covered a lot of actions today. You know, but, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you, but I want to hit one last thing before we wrap it up, because I feel a nice wrap up happening. So let me do it real quickly.
Yeah.
Let me interject real quickly. On the mindset thing, I think a big difference between a lot of people who make it and a lot of people who don't, it is mindset, which is overcoming the internal dialogue, right? So there's a lot of people who are very, very talented, and there are things inside that say, man, I don't know if I'm good enough, or they don't want to hear me, or whatever those little lies are.
Mm-hmm.
And that stops them from taking that big, scary step, right?
Yeah.
I want to shoot him a message, but he's not going to listen to me. Well, who cares if he doesn't listen to you? You may as well reach out, you know? And so I think a lot of it is just really those insecurities. We all have insecurities, right?
Right.
I have insecurities. Right. I still have insecurities. You know, so there's still moments of while performing or playing or stepping into something, insecurities will pop up sometimes. And it's keeping those insecurities in check and not letting them stop you from moving forward. Too many people will have those fears, you know, that this isn't going to work out, or maybe might not be good enough, or whatever it is, and they stop, right? They won't put themselves into that situation. And if that's a recipe to never have a career, because those insecurities are going to happen. And so I just want to say this is that you have to be fearless, and you have to be fearless. And even if you have those insecurities, you got to keep those in check and continue to put yourself out there and step through that door and to reach out to that person, to step into that room to play, whatever it is. And just never succumb to those insecurities. They'll pop up. Do not let them stop you from moving forward.
That is awesome. I couldn't agree with you more. And thank you very much for that. That's fantastic advice to share with everyone, because that really is, you know, we are entering into, you know, when you are getting into the music industry of any kind, you are entering into an industry where rejection is commonplace.
That's right.
You know? And you do have to enter into that understanding that people are going to turn you down. But it doesn't, but it doesn't mean that it just means that you have to change your mindset and look at it as they're turning you down because you're probably not the right fit for what they specifically need, right? Mm-hmm. Has nothing to do with who you are or your ability. It's just maybe they're looking for, you know, if you're auditioning for a gig, maybe they're looking for a female with black hair.
Exactly. Maybe right. Maybe your artist you're playing for is 5 feet tall. and you're 6 feet tall. And it's like, man, it's just, we need someone who's more her height because we don't want her looking like she's really short on stage. It's little things like that,
I walked into, my buddy got me a gig, got me an audition with Colby Calais.
Okay.
And if anyone knows anything about Colby, she's a tall girl. And her, I believe it was her boyfriend at the time. They might be married. I don't know what their situation is now, but her acoustic guitar player was someone she was in a relationship with. And he was also a very tall guy. I'm 5'7". And the front line, is going to be the singer and the guitar players. And I remember I walked into the audition. I just stopped when they came up to me to say hello. And I was like, I'm too short. I knew I was too short for this gig. I was like, this is not going to work. I was the wrong guy.
But you went ahead and did the audition anyway. I smiled. I did all that stuff because crazier things have happened. But it's likely, like you said, like they're just like, is it because you suck and you're no good and everyone hates you and you should just go home and quit? Or it's like, that's, if you look at the guy they hired, he's probably tall or like her or whatever.
He was a tall guy.
Right.
Yeah. They hired a guy who was probably like 6'2" or 6'3". And I remember when I left that gig, my buddy who was their tour manager, he's the one who recommended me. I called him and I said, man, why did you even call me for that? I mean, I felt like a fifth grader, walking into a talent show or something like that with my parents. Like, I was just so dwarfed by these people.
I know the deal. That's it. So that's it, right? It's like, you could have left there and thinking all these lies that are going to creep in your head. And the reality is that there are a lot of things at play. You might not be tall enough. Your hair may be long and they want someone with short hair. You might be too old and they want someone who's young. There's just some, right? He plays guitars that are too modern looking. And we want a guy who looks vintage and plays, old relic guitars and just kind of has that grungy kind of a vibe. There's just 1,000 things. Yeah. And so inevitably those insecurities will creep up, but they will be the death of your career if you let them stop you from just continuing to show up for those opportunities, to continue to put yourself out there, to continue to make yourself available. And you know what? Maybe you're not good enough. Maybe it's just plain and simple, you weren't good enough. But that doesn't mean you won't get good enough through this process, right? Yeah. So sometimes, maybe there's growth that still needs to happen, but it doesn't mean I'll never be good enough. I'm horrible. I'm fill in the blank. It just means I can stay the course. I'll continue to hone my craft. I'll continue to put myself in these opportunities. I'll continue to just learn by getting thrown in the fire. And every time you put yourself in those situations where you're thrown in the fire like that, you're like, holy crap, I don't know how I'm gonna pull this off. This is for me. My biggest growth happens then. So I'm growing so much quicker by throwing myself in those moments than sitting at home saying, okay, when I've mastered this, whatever, then I'll go do this thing. It's like, man, I just throw myself out there and I'm holding on for dear life. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how I'll pull this off. And you know what? I'll pull it off. And now I'm that much farther along as a player because the trial by fire. So insecurities, mindset, everything, are battling those insecurities. Don't let them stop you. And if you let those stop you, that is a surefire way to not have a career in music.
Yeah, it's kind of the ready, fire, aim, mentality. Just put yourself out there. Rejection is going to happen. It's going to happen. I mean, you just have to accept the fact that I get rejected all the time. My songs get rejected all the time. But then, I have enough of a percentage that work that allow me to keep having the career, Well,
and on that percentage. So 20-year-old Ed somehow got it in his mind. It said, somehow I equated to what we were doing, trying to make it in music. I put it in perspective as a salesman. Like literally, I thought, I don't know how 20-year-old Ed came up with his thought process, but the thought was this. I thought, look, I'll bet you a salesman, when he is selling something, he gets told no X percentage of the time before he gets a yes. Mm-hmm. Statistically, he probably knows I'm going to get 92 no's before I get one yes, whatever that is, right?
Mhm.
So let's just call that 100%. So let's just call it. So 92% of the time, I'm gonna get told no. Then I'm gonna have that one sale,
Yeah.
and that's the process.
Mhm.
And so for me, I literally always took those no's, and there were lots of them. I always took the no's as, all right, I'm one no closer to that yes now. It's
Yeah.
like, sweet. Statistically, I have to get a certain amount of no's. It's just part of it.
Yeah.
So sweet. I just got 4 no's this week. Well, I'm 4 no's closer to that yes. So we're
Yeah.
getting there. We're on our way.
That is a mindset right there, and that's also how you're framing it. You're framing it in a very positive way, and I think it really comes down to success, no matter what industry you're in. I think it ultimately comes down to your mindset,
Correct.
how you're going to approach it, how you're going to handle the ups and the downs. Even there's a phrase, a new level, a new devil, right? So
I've
even
never
when you
heard that, but I love that, and that's so true.
Yeah, when you get to the next level, there are going to be other things that are going to come up that you're going to have to deal with. There's no way around it. Another level, another devil. It never stops.
That's so true. I love hearing that. Thanks for sharing that one. That's a good one.
That's a good one.
But it is true. It doesn't stop. But what happens is you build confidence through each level.
Mm-hmm.
So now all of a sudden you're at the next level, and the new devil pops up. But now the mindset says, well, I conquered these other ones. I'm pretty certain I can figure this one out and conquer this one too. And so now you just have history of knowing that, well, I've overcome this, so I'm certain I can overcome this. And even if that's personal, even just in your personal journey, right? So, take the music career out of it, right? I've overcome this. I'm certain I can overcome this. And now the new fear, the new thing pops up. Well, I've conquered these 2 things in my life, or 1 or 3 or 4 or 5. I'm certain I'll get through this one too. So
that is awesome.
It's everything.
That's awesome. Well, Ed, man, I really appreciate you coming and hanging out with us and sharing your perspective of your career and what's allowed you to be able to sustain such a great career for such a long time and whatnot. And so if you're ever watching a TV show and Carrie Underwood is the guest performer, look off to her right. You're going to see Ed there ripping it up on guitar and doing all the real awesome guitar poses during the lead guitar solos. But I definitely appreciate you coming and hanging out with us, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. I always enjoy to hang out and visit with you. So thanks for reaching out.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy.
All right, we'll catch up soon, and best of luck with everybody out there. I know you got a lot of talented people with a lot of heart and soul and hunger and passion, and those are the things that make you succeed. So
absolutely,
my hat's off to everybody in your group.
Awesome, Ed. All right, thanks, man.
All right, later.
Hey, thank you so much for sticking around and listening to this podcast with Ed Eason. And I want to end today with our Real Musicians Don't Starve manifesto. And that is, real musicians are business owners and our business is music. A business is simply an organization where value is provided in order to make a profit. And unlike starving musicians who operate with a mindset of scarcity and fear, as success-driven musicians, we operate with a mindset of abundance, confidence, and service. We are doers, we are dreamers, we are creators, and we are achievers. We know that our true value is determined by how many people we serve and how well we serve them, because our truth is, real musicians don't starve. I'll see you in the next episode.